Welcome to Plan Your Work and Work Your Plan. Learn how to develop a comprehensive school IPM program. This is Dr. Marcia Anderson with the Center of Expertise for School IPM. I have the pleasure of being your moderator for today's program. I would first like to thank all of you for joining us. Today's webinar will discuss how to manage pests on school grounds and how to be proactive in your approach to pest management with an integrated pest management program. IPM is all about preventing pests. It's very important to know exactly what you should be doing if, when, and where pests enter your building. The public is increasingly concerned about environmental health risks posed to children in our nation's schools because youth spend a significant portion of their lives in and around schools. Reducing the unnecessary exposure of students to environmental hazards improves their health and attendance and leads to greater academic achievement. IPM reduces the unnecessary exposure of students, teachers, and staff to pests and pesticides, reduces pest complaints, and is cost-effective. IPM is a sustainable approach to managing pests since it combines biological, cultural, physical, and chemical tools in a way that minimizes economic, health, and environmental risks. A good IPM program can improve indoor air quality, reduce asthma triggers, and improve school attendance. An effective school IPM program uses common sense strategies to reduce sources of food, water, and shelter for pests in school buildings and on school grounds. EPA recommends that all schools implement programs that promote both the safe use of pesticides and integrated pest management. By developing a coordinated IPM program, school leaders demonstrate their commitment to promoting a healthy environment where students are more productive. So what are the benefits of school IPM? IPM is smart because it reduces the root cause of pest problems. It's sensible because it creates a safer and healthier learning environment by managing pests and reducing unnecessary exposure to pests and pesticides. And IPM is sustainable because it provides long-term control of pests by reducing their sources of food, water, and shelter in and around schools. And now I'm going to introduce our presenters for today's webinar. First is Thomas Green. Dr. Tom Green is the president and co-founder of the IPM Institute of North America, an independent nonprofit organization that fosters recognition and rewards in the marketplace for goods and service providers who practice IPM. Next, we'll have Raul Rivas. Raul is the Director of School Facilities and Security for the Metropolitan School District of Pike Township in Indiana. He has nearly 30 years of experience as an elementary school teacher, assistant principal, and principal. And then we will have Francine Locke. Francine is the Environmental Director of the School District of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. She oversees district compliance with environmental health standards and works to implement holistic school environmental health programs. At this point, I will yield to Dr. Green from the IPM Institute, who will begin our program. Dr. Green, take it away.
Thanks so much, Marcia. So today I'm going to be talking about IPM plans and sustaining profitable IPM programs in schools through good plans. So our organization is an independent nonprofit based in Madison, Wisconsin, and we're a group of about 24 working on leveraging the power of the marketplace to improve health, environment, and economics through IPM and other best practices. So we work in both agriculture and in communities. We work with food companies on sustainability programs because consumers want to know that products that they're buying and companies that they're buying from are doing their utmost to improve the environment. We also work with school districts and pest control companies to certify them through our Green Shield Certified and IPM Star programs, and work directly with farmers, healthcare facilities, public facilities on IPM and making things better. Next slide. I guess I've got the controls here. So what do we mean by profitable? How does profitability enter into school systems and IPM plans? Well, as Marcia mentioned, there are quite a few benefits that IPM delivers that deliver dollars to the bottom line for school districts. So IPM can improve attendance for both staff and students. And attendance is one of the biggest factors in improving student performance. We'll hear more from Raul about that later on today. IPM generates fewer pests and fewer costly complaints. We'll talk about that. Your staff will be much more satisfied when they can come into the kitchen in the morning to start their work and flip on the lights and don't see cockroaches running around or find mouse droppings on their food preparation surfaces. IPM can lower your liability by improving food safety and fire safety. It can also help save on energy and water costs and help you improve your management of your buildings and keep them in better shape generally. In addition to reducing direct pest management costs, there are a slew of indirect costs like these that IPM can help to address. So, IPM and attendance, what is that all about? Well, many people don't realize the connection between IPM and asthma. And childhood asthma is epidemic in the U.S., affects 9% of children nationally and up to 25% in some of our urban centers. IPM symptoms can result from and also be triggered by exposure to allergens associated with cockroaches and also rodents and dust mites. And there's been a growing body of evidence, studies that have come out in the past 2 years that document very well this connection between asthma and pests, including in schools and homes. And we've seen studies that have shown higher asthmagen levels in schools than in homes from mice, for example, a study that was done in Massachusetts. And we see that these cockroach allergen levels have been highly correlated with student asthma prevalence. And then, as I mentioned, asthma has a lot to do with attendance, with the number one cause of school absences by students and costs us more than 10.5 million school days each year. Students missing 2 or more days of school per month have lower grades. So attendance is very directly related to performance, and so that makes the connection between asthma and performance. And schools have increased graduation rates and student grades by improving attendance. In a number of states, the states distribute funds based on attendance, and an absence, a single absence, can cost the school district as much as $93 per student per day. So we're talking about real dollars here that pests can be draining from your bottom line as a school district, and that IPM can help us improve. So IPM reduces pest complaints. School systems, we've documented very carefully 90% reduction in schools in pesticide use and 85% reduction in pest complaints in multiple school districts. And it costs no more than conventional long-term to put an IPM program in place. And this information about reductions in pesticide use and pest complaints has been confirmed in other types of public buildings as well, not just school districts. So IPM is something that can benefit us in our administrative offices as well. So if we think about pest complaints and costs and potential for savings, just think about what happens when a teacher, for example, finds a mouse scurrying across the classroom, finds mouse droppings on their desk, or sees a cockroach or a bed bug. They've got to stop work, they've got to report the complaint, someone on the other end has to receive that complaint, evaluate it for the appropriate action, take that action, log the action, and close the report. And some of those actions might mean calling in your pest management professional and then meeting that professional at the site to let them into the facility and inform them about what needs to be addressed and who saw what where. So we're talking about a lot of time for each pest complaint. And wouldn't it be great if you could cut all of those costs by 90% by putting an IPM program in place? And we know that's very possible. So how do we do that? Well, as Marcia mentioned, we're taking a preventative approach. We're asking not what is the pesticide that I should be using for this pest problem, but why is the pest there? So one of the primary reasons we have pests in buildings is lack of a tight building exterior. And the picture in the lower left there shows a good door sweep. It's in good shape, and it's well installed to close that gap between the bottom of the door and the door sill. And a study from the University of Florida showed that just by having good exterior door sweeps on schools can cut complaints by 65%. And if you think about it, it really makes sense. So ants can get through a tiny gap. Even mice can get through a gap that's just a 1/4 inch in diameter. And so if we have those kinds of gaps on our exterior doors in our schools or other buildings, it's essentially like you've got no door there for pests. So they're moving along, traveling across the ground. Typically they'll follow lines, so they'll be running along the wall, trying to stay as hidden as possible in terms of predators that might see them and come after them. And then all of a sudden, they hit a doorway, and there's this 1/4 inch gap under the door, and for them, it's as if there's no door there, and they just scoot right through, often being attracted by smells and warm air that are coming out of our buildings. This picture on the right shows some mouse droppings scattered in a staff break room that was right around the corner from a set of double exterior doors with no door sweeps on the bottom and a very poor seal in the center of that double door. And essentially it was just an open invitation for pests to come in and clean up after the teachers with the popcorn and other smells coming out the door, particularly as temperatures get colder in the fall. We're pumping our expensive heat that we've generated out that door and calling pests in with smells. Here's some other examples. So one of the things I'd like you to do after this webinar is to go to your kitchens in your schools and take a look at the floor drains in the food service areas, particularly where food is being prepared day in or day out, or where dishes may be being washed, and take a look particularly under and behind equipment where there may be floor drains that are obscured, forgotten about them, they may be hard to reach and hard to clean out, and see what's going on in there. Often we find entire ecosystems operating in these floor drains that are neglected. The kitchen staff will typically clean the kitchen from the floor up. They don't have the tools or the training to get into the floor drains, to take those covers off, take a look at what's happening there. And the only time they get attention is when they get clogged and you have a flooding issue. And then what's happening there in the meantime, from the pictures here, you can see the biofilm that develops over time as decomposing food gets trapped in drains. We see some black mold growing in the upper right. The lower left is some of that biofilm collected on a spatula that I take with me when I do my school inspections. And if you probe that material, you'll find like cockroaches feeding, ants feeding, or fly maggots. So in the wintertime, for example, you'll go into a restaurant, or you might go into your school kitchen and find small flies flying around and say, where are these flies coming from? It's cold outside. They're not coming from outside. They're actually breeding in this muck in your drains. And if you poke around in there, you'll find the fly maggots wriggling, and you'll find the pupae, the stage between the maggot and the fly, on the drain as well. And the flies are actually emerging from the drain. Then they're returning to the drain to feed and lay eggs, and they're picking up all sorts of good stuff from this biofilm, things like listeria on their feet, and then carrying them up to your food and food preparation surfaces. So really critical issue, and I bet you could find some drains that look like this if you go into your schools, particularly older kitchens that have had retrofits, have had new equipment move in, and have had drains covered up and hidden over time. Trash handling areas are another area where you can find the same sort of thing. So there's that biofilm buildup in the lower right there that you can often find underneath dumpsters, underneath compactors, underneath stairways and other places that don't get cleaned as frequently as they should. And in the upper right, we see what often happens as a result. So this was a facility where the exterior looked like this, accumulation of trash, biofilm in the exterior drains in the loading dock area, and tremendous fly issues. And staff were so frustrated by the presence of the flies, they're self-medicating by buying an over-the-counter no pest strip and then hanging it out in this dock area. And of course, that's not something you want people working there to be breathing, and in an open air environment like that, it's also not going to be effective. It's not going to develop high enough concentrations to manage that fly problem. And the simple solution is just cleaning that drain, taking that cover off of the drain in the loading dock concrete pad and cleaning it out regularly, making sure someone has the tools and the training and the responsibility to do that on a regular basis. That addresses why the pest is there and can solve your problem overnight by removing that material and the maggots. Here's another good example of how we can deal with pest problems effectively. So these can racks, many school districts and other food service types of facilities use them. When the cans come in a cardboard shipping container, they're immediately removed from the cardboard and put onto the racks. So how does that help? Well, cardboard is a great resource for cockroaches. Not only can they deposit their egg cases, corrugations in the cardboard, but they also live in the flaps of the cardboard boxes and feed on the glue that keeps the box together. Cockroaches, back in history, they lived in the forest and lived under tree bark, where they would hang out during the day and be protected from predators, and then they'd come out at night when they're much less visible. So they're doing that now in our kitchens and other buildings, German cockroaches in particular, and then they're out at night feeding. During the day they go back to that place where they have that contact on their upper and lower body surface. That's where they're most comfortable and least stressed. And cardboard boxes provide that ideal habitat. By removing the cardboard and taking it right out to recycling, putting the cans on the can rack, you're intercepting cockroach egg cases that may be introduced into your facility that may include 40 to 50 cockroaches when they hatch. Those are now out in the recycling, and then you're reducing the habitat within your kitchen for cockroaches should an infestation get started. Here's a great picture of a new kitchen that's very well designed. So if you notice, the equipment is up on legs, up off the floor, with lots of clearance to get underneath. There's lots of clearance behind the equipment to see what's going on and keep that area clean. and the floor drains in this facility were also very accessible so that people could see them, see if issues were happening. Covers were not screwed down, easily taken up, and easily cleaned. This is how we solve our pest problems, by getting to the root cause of why the pest is there. So what's an IPM plan got to do with it? Well, I'm sure you have a fire safety plan. I'm sure you have a security plan. I'm sure you also have a food safety plan for your school district. And things like security plans and food safety plans, those have only come about in the last 20 or 30 years. Well, now we have IPM plans too, and they serve the same types of functions as these other plans that are so important in our school districts. They can be a blueprint for pest prevention. They can detail your monitoring and inspection routines, and what you do when a pest issue arises that needs to be addressed. So it's meant to be your Bible for your IPM plan, have everything all in one place that anyone would need to know. It's really critical for a successful transition. So you might have somebody who's managing your facility and responsible for your pest management, and one day they go out and buy a lottery ticket and hit big and move to Tahiti. What do you do then if all that information is tied up in that person's head? Putting it down in an IPM plan, collecting it in a plan, lets you hand off the program to the successor and avoid a disruption in an effective program, which we see all too often in school districts with IPM. It can also just be a handy reference to have on hand whenever questions arise. And an IPM plan is required in some states, like Massachusetts, for example. So often there's confusion about IPM policies and IPM plans. They're both very important documents, but they have different functions. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about an IPM policy. So your policy is a short, it's usually a page to 2 or 3 pages, expression of your commitment to IPM and why. Some districts have policies that aren't board approved. We highly recommend that the board review and approve the IPM policy, and it's there with your other formal policies. Your communication to the school community about why you're doing IPM, its direction to those working in the districts that IPM is the way that we do pest management here, that sanitation and exclusion and modifying habitats to make them less pest-friendly are our first line of defense. They can also serve as a stick, particularly when it's a formal board-approved policy and the principal, for example, has an issue with a teacher, say, who collects things and has clutter in the classroom. Resources are expensive and that are used maybe once in a year need to be used again the next year, and there's never enough storage space. And you open the closet and you can't see the floor or the wall because of the stack of things in there. That creates great habitat for pests. Things need to be up on storage racks with clearance underneath and behind. And if the principal has that policy, they can take that to the teacher and say, our policy says we use IPM in our district. Policy talks about we need to avoid clutter, and we've got a clutter situation here that we need to deal with. Sometimes the policy can get specific around who's going to be the IPM coordinator and what that role is, that staff who don't have a pesticide application license may not bring pesticides into the school district or make pesticide applications. It may include the details of pesticide application posting and pre-notification of parents and how long that posting may be up. And then I mentioned the clutter example, and that policies are required in some states as well as. So policies typically don't change much. They typically don't have to change much. They can take a lot of effort to put together and get approved, and then they're there as a great tool. And I'm going to talk about some resources to help you see some example policies that you might consider adopting for your district if you don't have one already. Now, an IPM plan, on the other hand, is a living blueprint. So here, you want a document that you can change as situations change. 10 years ago, very few to no school districts in many states mentioned bed bugs in their IPM plans. And now, of course, bed bugs have come back. They're an issue and need to be included in IPM plans for all school districts for that situation when that happens. So it's a flexible, living document that can be updated as needed. It's going to include the basic information about your district, who does what the latest revision date is. It's going to include details about how often school buildings are inspected and particular areas within the school district too. So kitchens, food, water, and shelter are present there that need more frequent inspection for pest management than, say, other types of rooms. Custodial closets, mechanical rooms can also have food, water, and shelter present. Those are the areas that need more frequent inspection and should be included in your IPM plan. So how are you going to monitor? So in addition to regular visual inspection, how are you going to use insect monitors or rodent bait boxes with a non-toxic bait, monitoring bait inside them? Details about the IPM coordinator role, one of which is often overlooked, and that's reviewing plans for new construction and renovation to make sure that we're not building into the design pest-friendly features like bird roosts, for example. And then inspecting construction in progress to make sure that things aren't happening like food debris from the construction workers being tossed behind walls or under floors, which we often see. The key is turned over to the school district by the contractor, and not only do you have pest-friendly conditions like that built into the building, but you may have an existing pest problem that comes along with the building if pest management is neglected during construction and rodents, for example, are allowed to come and go and create nesting sites inside the building. So how are you going to manage complaint reporting? Many school districts have now incorporated pest complaint reporting into their regular work order system. They may be using software like SchoolDude, for example, that allows you to use that electronic system to make a really efficient pest reporting and response program, much like you would for a pipe leak or any other urgent issue that needs to be addressed. Regulatory compliance, storing all of your forms that you use for pest complaint reporting, for parental notification, all in one place. This is what your IPM plan is good for. So I'm just going to show some examples here, and then in the presentation there are links to these resources. So I'm not going to go through these in detail, but I just wanted to show you some of the resources that are available and the descriptions that they have within them. So we talked about the IPM plan, including a description of the IPM coordinator role. Here's an example from a document. You see the link down there below that helps you put together an IPM plan. So I won't go through the details here, but just to show you that the plan can include text describing the IPM coordinator role, and in putting your plan together, you can just grab this text right out of this document and then adapt it to fit your needs. Here's another example about some IPM plan text that talks about monitoring for pest problems and reporting. And here we're looking for not only signs of pests, but pest-friendly conditions, and having a program described in the plan that this is where we monitor, how frequently we monitor, who monitors, and the things that we're looking for, and then reporting and addressing. There's another example, pest monitoring protocols. This text talks about how to use insect monitors, sticky insect monitors effectively. They're great tools to put out in pest-conducive areas like kitchens, and then as you're coming through doing your visual inspection, you could check these little sticky traps and see what you might find on there, which can range from something like a poor ground beetle that slipped in the door when somebody opened it, and it's never going to cause a problem in your school. They're not going to breed in your school, and accidental introduction all the way up to things like German cockroaches, which can be challenging to address if they get established in your school district. So picking up that first individual on that monitoring trap can be so valuable in tipping you off to, hey, that maybe there's a larger problem here, and this wasn't a single cockroach that managed to slip in on a cardboard container. Let's increase the number of monitors that we have out there. If we find a capture and identify if there are others out there, and if so, where they're coming from and what we might need to do to address a problem while it's still small. Rodent control. Here's some text out of that document that talks about how a school district can manage rodents effectively. So having all of this down in one place and using that information and updating that information as needed can really go a long way to sustaining your IPM program. And so many times we've seen great programs started by tremendous individuals who've done a great job putting the program together, and then things fall apart when they leave, when they retire, when they take another position, because that knowledge, that system that they've worked so hard to develop and refine and implement leaves with them. That's why you need an IPM plan. So, tools. iSchool Pest Manager is a brand new portal for everything you need to know about school IPM. Development was led by Janet Hurley at Texas A&M and funded by EPA, and it's an absolutely fantastic website, and it includes things like sample IPM policies and IPM plans. It includes inspection checklists, pest-specific fact sheets, materials on roles. So if I'm your school health professional, what's my role in the IPM program? All sorts of great materials, and there's a mobile version as well that includes some great resources. Here's some of the materials that you can get to from that iSchool Pest Management portal that can help you put your IPM together, including an interactive website from Massachusetts on how to create your IPM plan online. And the website also includes bits and pieces that you might pull into your plan. So here's a protocol from North Carolina on addressing bed bugs in schools. And you can pull that document and stick it right in your plan. So some great resources that you can get to easily through that portal to construct your plan. And then finally, I want to tell you about a new training program. This training program was developed under the leadership of Don Googe at University of Arizona, and again with EPA funding. And now we have training modules online for 9 different key roles in school districts. So you can just go onto the iSchool Pest Manager or the StopSchoolPest.org website and capture these great professionally prepared PowerPoints and use them to train teachers, custodians, maintenance, facility managers on their role in IPM. And they all need to be involved. It's not possible to have an effective IPM program just by handing it off to your pest management professional. It has to be a partnership. We have to address things like dirty drains through our internal workings in the school district to complement the work that our pest management professional is doing. So 9 different roles, great training resources available for your district. And I want to close with this graph here that illustrates the progress that we've been making in the U.S. since 2008. So in 2006, a group of 40 people from around the U.S. got together and said, hey, we need to coordinate our efforts, no longer work on just a state-by-state basis to try to get school IPM in place in our school districts. Let's coordinate, let's collaborate, let's share information, let's not each be recreating the wheel. And in 2008, you can see the blue bars that very few states had a coordinated effort with others, with multiple agencies and institutions collaborating. And now in 2014, the last year that we updated our survey, had tremendous progress since 2008 in all working together and collaborating and developing robust school IPM programs in our states. So thank you so much for your time. I hope that you find this useful and that you'll be one of those motivated individuals who make a huge difference in your school district. And we've seen that time and time again where a single individual can catch the IPM bug and bring IPM to the school district or bring individual ideas like the IPM plan to their school district and make a huge difference in all of the aspects that we talked about, including reducing asthma and improving attendance and student performance by improving IPM.
And thank you, Dr. Green, for your comprehensive discussion of creating a sustainable and profitable IPM program in your school.
Next, we're proud to introduce Raul Rivas from the Metropolitan School District of Pike Township in Indianapolis, Indiana. Raul will discuss administrative buy-in, what sold him on IPM. Raul, the mic is all yours.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Raul Rivas. I am the Director of Facilities and Security for the Metropolitan School District of Pike Township. The school district is located in the northwest part of Indianapolis, and we consist of 9 elementaries, 3 middle schools, a freshman center, an alternative high school, and a high school. This is my 41st year in the teaching profession with 21 years as a classroom teacher and 20 years as an administrator, with the last 11 years as the Director of Facilities. My duties also include providing in-service to our kitchen staff, custodians, contractors that provide support custodial staff, teachers, and administrators. Now, our current enrollment in Pike Township schools for 2016-2017 is 11,426 students. Now, this is an increase of 172 students since 2015-2016 school year. We are a very diverse school district. 63% of our students are at or below the poverty line. Now, in sharing this slide, I want to note that an integrated pest management program can be implemented in any size school district. It does not matter if you live and work in a rural, urban, or suburban school district. If you have committed staff that want to improve the learning environment, an IPM program should be part of your school district's plan. Now, you may ask yourself, why start an IPM program? What are the benefits to the students, staff, and school year? Well, this slide on our graduation rate shows a dramatic increase in our graduation rate since implementation of an IPM program in 2008. What I have observed since we stopped using monthly pesticide treatments in our schools is an increase in attendance. And I know that an increase in attendance increases instruction, increases student performance, and ultimately leads to a higher graduation rate. The data I have displayed is from the Indiana Department of Education website showing our graduation rate increasing since 2006-2007 And at that time, we were only at a 72.5% graduation rate in comparison to the statewide graduation rate. Now, since the 2010-11 school year, our graduation rate has been over 91% for 5 consecutive years. For the 2014-2015 school year, our graduation rate was 94%. Now, what piqued my interest in starting an IPM program for a school district is when I observed a pesticide contractor spraying pesticides in elementary classrooms and hallways, and the placement of bait under shelving in our classrooms and in school kitchens. Second, one of my professional development goals each year as the Director of Facilities is to demonstrate what I am doing to increase academic achievement for all students. Now, for the past 10 years, I have not had any direct contact in teaching any academic lessons to students. I've had to think outside the box in developing a goal to increase student achievement. What assisted me in developing an IPM program was the support of a school board member. She was very interested in exploring ways to protect the environment. It is with her encouragement and request to the superintendent that got us started on putting together an IPM program. Next, what I did was I launched into an assessment of all of our schools. I started a pilot program the first year and then went district-wide the second year. Any new program requires staff development being offered to all stakeholders. I did not stop with our custodial staff. Staff development was offered to teachers, principals, the superintendent, and for all school board members at one of their scheduled school board meetings. Now, I've been fortunate to have a co-worker in the name of Mr. Asaf Goldstein assist me in the development of an IPM program for a school district. He has been instrumental to include getting training and licensing from the Office of Indiana State Chemists. Now, the State Chemist's Office regulates the distribution and application of pesticides for the state of Indiana without causing harm to people or property. In developing our IPM program, I learned that the EPA provides an extensive listing of resources. I was able to learn and quickly develop a written plan for our school district. Now, this page from the EPA website allowed me to gain the basic knowledge that helped me develop a well-thought-out plan for the school district. Now, for those of you listening to this webinar, those of you in the teaching profession, you know how valuable and limited your time is. If you can obtain boilerplate language for a lesson, you go for it. Now, you can type in on the website, any website, computer, Model Facility IPM Plan 0718907, and you will be directed to a 7-page PDF. You just need to fill in the blanks. The document includes an introduction about your plan, the role of an IPM coordinator, establishing an IPM committee, posting and notification of pesticide applications, record keeping and public access to information, training, general IPM strategies, service provider requirements, staff roles, pest-specific strategies, and a checklist. Pest control in school environment, adopting integrated pest management. This handbook has been very useful in my development of a plan for my school district. It identifies ways to reduce dependence on pesticides in school buildings, landscapes, and discusses alternative methods for managing pests commonly found in schools. This next handout, Sensible Steps to Healthier School Environments, is another great resource for your use. It provides information that may be specific to concerns in your school district that include additional areas, for example, drinking water, mercury, mold, radon, buses, and car idling on school property. Now, in developing our IPM program, I made sure we covered 9 areas, and here I have bulleted the 9 items. The first one was purpose. How to utilize all available pest management strategies to prevent damaging pest outbreaks while reducing risk to human health and the environment. Program components. We want to make sure that we're able to monitor. That is why I asked Mr. to inspect our schools each time he makes a visit to make repairs in our kitchens or is asked by the building principal to assist with a potential problem. We want to make sure we identify correctly what we're dealing with. Now, in determining the treatment, we only use a pesticide if it is absolutely necessary. Oftentimes, the treatment that we use in our schools is cleaning the area with soap and water. Now, the treatment in our buildings are done before and after the school day. We come back and monitor and evaluate the effectiveness. And finally, we educate everyone that needs to know. We establish procedures to follow until the situation has been remedied. This includes follow-up phone calls and providing literature. Now, the role of an IPM coordinator, whether the person is contracted out or is a member of the school staff, always needs to keep in mind the safety of all occupants to include potential liability concerns. We want to make sure that we keep everyone safe. Our procedures include completing the work before or after the school day so that we do not disrupt the students and teacher teaching his or her lessons. We also want to make sure we're controlling costs. Again, we only apply where needed and nothing more. Again, I've mentioned Mr. Goldstein. I'm, again, very fortunate to have such a dedicated member who's dedicated to following a set procedures in IPM. He's authorized to review with contractors the recommended pesticide applications. His background in kitchen equipment and procedures establishes our department to monitor buildings on a regular basis. I certainly appreciate how he documents past sightings and records all documentations on a computer file. And as part of our record keeping, we do offer the opportunity for parents to register and receive email notification in the event we have to administer a pesticide or herbicide application on school grounds. Now, each of our buildings has a head custodian that is an employee of the school district. The rest of our custodial staff and our kitchen staff members are contracted employees. We have come to know that the contracted or outsourced employee does not have the commitment and ownership we see in our school employees. Therefore, the head custodian is called upon to alert us when there is a pest problem, to use best practices in keeping our schools clean, and to participate in all staff development opportunities. Now, my maintenance staff also works closely with Mr. Goldstein to include identifying IPM issues as they occur. In the event we have an IPM concern or a reoccurring issue, we schedule staff development meetings with kitchen and custodial staff. This could be training on-site or off-site in a large group meeting setting. The school district has provided Mr. Goldstein all the necessary equipment to conduct an investigation. This includes a toolkit that may include also a high-powered flashlight, knee pads to get under equipment, containers to isolate a pest, and also a bee suit in the situations that involve bees or wasps. We call on teachers and students to use best practices in sanitation. With the large number of students now eating breakfast in our schools, many students now eat in their classrooms. This presents a lot of challenges for our custodial staff but one that we accept and are willing to do everything we can to keep our schools clean and safe. In applying pesticides, it is very important that some of the steps that we follow include always following a set of procedures. We want to make sure we're choosing the correct pesticide and placing it in a specific site. We do have a standard practice when we apply baits to include placing them in crevices. A safety precaution that we also have in place with rodenticides are putting them in locations that children cannot access. Applications are done when occupants are not present. And again, this is done before or after school. And there have been quite a few occasions we have come into our schools on weekends and holidays to do applications. At all times, we use proper clothing. We work with our temperature control staff to make sure that we have proper ventilation in our schools. A very important component is notification. We do send notification home to students, staff, and interested parents in a timely manner, and also review material safety data sheets. Now, if you're in a position where you have to contract a pest management professional, there may be individuals in your community. I would ask that you take an opportunity to interview these individuals, to talk through and see if they have any interest in learning about IPM. If not, you're probably going to have to take the initiative to train them to be active in following your school procedures. Many of our schools have limited budgets, so this is very important that they understand that. One of the things that we have observed is that we have reduced the number of repairs due to pest issues in our schools. We have observed that our schools are much cleaner. Again, we make every effort to seal all cracks. And I think if you end up contracting with a professional, just laying all the groundwork will certainly help you have a successful program. What you will find in developing a program is that you'll begin the process of developing forms for your program. But before I get into that, again, I want to mention about the importance of the benefits, economic benefits of reducing pest damages in your schools. We have saved a considerable amount of money, and when I first started in this program, we had a budget of over $8,000 in pesticide treatments. That has been reduced to like in the hundreds of dollars, so it's been a major savings to our school district. One of the things that you'll find is once you develop great practices and you put those in place, including keeping your schools cleaner, a lot of times treating pest issues with soap and water, you will see an increase in your attendance and student achievement. I want to get back to forms. Our experience has been that whenever you start a program, you will develop a set of forms. If any school district is interested, they can contact me. I'm more than willing to share the forms that we have developed so that you can implement your plan successfully. And again, I've listed the forms that we have used, and you're more than welcome to have access to our forms. Now, as far as the timeline for implementation, I'm recommending to the listener that I've offered here three options. My recommendation for all here are three options is to do a pilot program, which may involve 1 to 3 schools. Get your feet wet before you launch district-wide. Remember that a key component is getting the support of the superintendent and school board. I know of school districts in Indiana that did not get the support at the start of their program, and the result is very little progress being made. Now, for those of you who are ambitious, plan now and roll out the program at the start of a new school year. I would advise you to organize a committee that would include parents, teachers, and administrators. because you definitely need stakeholders in order to be successful. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Rivas, for your comprehensive look at buying into an IPM program.
Now for our final presenter from the Philadelphia School District, Francine Locke will share with us how her district developed their school IPM plan and how they were able to secure administrative and staff buy-in that is critical to developing any school IPM program. Francine, the mic is all yours.
Thanks, Marcia. Again, my name is Francine Locke. I'm the Environmental Director for the School District of Philadelphia. I just want to go over a little bit about the background of our school district. We are a very large school district, and we have a very diverse student population. We have about 50% of our students are African American, and about 20% are Latino students. We actually support 24 languages, and we have a very large building footprint with over 23 million square feet of building space, over 300 buildings, 134,000 students, and we serve pretty much free lunches at every school and free breakfast as well. We're very proud of that, being able to provide our children with proper nutrition daily. And as we move forward, we'll explain how that sometimes gets in the way with integrated pest management. In Pennsylvania, our children are more likely to have asthma. There are serious health disparities actually in Pennsylvania, and even more so in Philadelphia. Almost 30% of our African American children have asthma, and almost 20% of our Latino children have asthma. Frighteningly, African Americans are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from asthma. So this is a very serious issue for us in Philadelphia. Absenteeism in asthma. Children who have asthma are absent more often from school. Asthma causes children to miss school and adults to miss work. In Pennsylvania, almost a third of our students miss 1 or more days of school due to asthma. Almost a quarter of adults miss 1 or more days of work due to asthma. And of course, being absent from school once again means that critical academic information is being missed, and this is contrary to what our mission is as a school district. So we need to control asthma, and we see a very close connection to IPM. So why adopt IPM? So I gave a few reasons in the beginning of this presentation about asthma. So all public schools in Pennsylvania are actually required by law to use integrated pest management. The law aims to protect children and school employees from unnecessary exposure to pesticides, making schools safer. The School District of Philadelphia ties IPM into its overall Indoor Environmental Quality Program. Our district began developing its Indoor Environmental Quality Program, or IEQ program, in 2010 after our operations leadership team attended the Environmental Protection Agency's Indoor Air Quality Tools for Schools Symposium in Washington, D.C. At the symposium, we talked about our district's challenges with antiquated and deteriorated building systems and learned that there is clear evidence to show that children's health and academic performance are impacted by a school's indoor environment. Today, our school district has an indoor environmental quality program that focuses on inspecting every school twice per year as part of our mandated asbestos program. And our focus is on proactively identifying environmental health issues, such as signs of pests, rodent droppings and roaches, because we understand that these conditions are clearly related to our core mission of educating children. But the fact still remains that we do have pests in our schools. This fact became clear after we conducted recent inspections at 20 schools that had the highest asthma prevalence rate in the city. And we saw that in each one of these 20 schools, there was evidence of rodent droppings in each school. So, administrative buy-in. As I've been going through this presentation, I just keep trying to emphasize the importance of children's health and academic performance. And this is what we have been telling our superintendent and our leadership team here. Our Superintendent's Action Plan 4.0, actually 3.0, I'm sorry, aims to provide every student with a high-quality education. And no matter how good the curriculum is or how great the teaching staff is, if the indoor environment is not the way it should be, the IEQ is just as important to student performance. Our Office of Environmental Management and Services has repeatedly illustrated the connection between IEQ and academic performance and health at any opportunity we have. Through professional development and through our new sustainability plan that I'll mention later in the presentation, we are connecting our academic and our operations staff together to understand the importance of integrated pest management, IEQ, and children's health and academic performance. So IPM is such a cross-program support system. You need to have all the departments in the school district, from academic to food services to facilities to pest management, all on the same page. I just want to talk briefly about a complex indoor environmental quality case that we discovered at a large elementary school where pests were identified as one of the major issues at the school. To tackle this issue, we formed an indoor environmental quality task force at the school because there was a need to have cross-program support to address the cause of the pests. The most important and significant finding was mouse droppings in kindergarten and pre-K classrooms. To investigate the cause, we looked closer at the school's operations and found several cross-program issues. First was food services. They were storing an amazing amount of packages of ketchup, mustard, and mayo that was being delivered daily. From our inspections, we had food services to stop having those deliveries because there was just too much there and it wasn't needed. These packages showed signs of rodent damage. And so we found that there was just more being delivered than needed to be, and this was a food source. And these things were accumulating. So that was one step that was taken. And then for those condiments that remained in place, we had them stored in plastic sealable containers. The food services staff also purchased wire metal shelving units on wheels so that staff could easily roll the shelves back and forth to clean. We also found that mice were getting into the kitchen's refrigerator. Through inspection, we saw that the door sweep on the refrigerator was deteriorated and allowed for mice to enter the unit. The damaged strip was replaced with a rodent-proof door sweep, and the rodent visits to the refrigerator were stopped. Another finding was that the classrooms where rodent droppings were located contained excessive clutter on surfaces, and the rooms were unable to be cleaned properly. In addition to this, children were eating breakfast in the classroom daily. There was a need to declutter these rooms by removing the materials from ventilation units and tables, which allowed for better cleaning. And we asked to increase the trash removal and cleanup services in the rooms to pick up from crumbs and spills from daily breakfast eating. Another significant finding came when we were looking into the ventilation system from our IEQ assessment. We opened up the unit ventilators in classrooms, and we saw that there were mouse nests in a few of them. These were removed, and the unit ventilators were properly cleaned, and we developed a preventive maintenance schedule to change the filters and also inspect for things such as a mouse nest, which we would never want to see, of course, in a ventilation unit. Finally, we made sure that the teachers and staff members had a way to communicate when they saw rodent droppings or the sightings of rodents, and so they placed a sighting log in the main office so that the building engineer could address these issues. This is an example of a cross-program support system that we have in our district. So, district-wide planning. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different components to our integrated pest management. But in summary, we found that integrated pest management is more than just treating for pests. We have a great pest management program, and I didn't even mention them actually. They do provide glue traps and bait when needed, and try not to use chemical means ever. But our district does have an in-house pest management team, and we have 1 foreman and 4 certified pest technicians. But for 218 schools, some with multiple buildings, this is just not enough. In February, we started launching a pest management contract to supplement for our staffing resource that we didn't really have enough folks to actually get out to every school all the time. And now kitchen and cafeterias are inspected monthly by these folks, and so that helps out in those areas. But even with more pest management personnel, there's a need to connect the dots for all of our departments to realize that everyone plays a role in reducing pests in our schools. And once again, from food services to facilities management. We recently conducted inspections of all of our schools for exterior door sweeps to determine if they were contributing to allowing pests into our schools. We tied this into our mandated asbestos inspections. Most school districts have to do this. So our inspectors who were looking for damaged asbestos, we just added one more task to their duty, which was to look for door sweep deficiencies on exterior doors. We found hundreds of door sweeps that needed to be replaced, and so we worked with our Penn State IPM program partners who are experts in the area of IPM, and they let us know what type of door sweep would be appropriate. So they prescribed the type of door sweep. They even created a video for installing it so our building engineers could use it. And so this next slide is showing our new sustainability program. And our sustainability program is a 5-year plan that helps to make every school a green school over 5 years. And one of the components of that is the healthy school environment and integrated pest management. And so I just wanted to share this to show that IPM is part of a very big picture that includes ensuring that our children are in healthy, safe environments that are conducive to teaching and learning. The challenges, there are many challenges, but probably the biggest challenge we have with regards to IPM, in addition to staffing and resources, is actually bed bugs. Bed bugs, because there's such a social piece to this, meaning that they are hitchhikers, and if there is an environment for which an individual is coming from every day and bringing them, no matter how much we treat our schools in terms of HEPA vacuuming or steam cleaning, every day there's a reintroduction. So what we have found to be successful is to have some support for families through agencies that are in Philadelphia to help with regards to home health. So that's been part of our program. That's our biggest challenge, pretty much. Our successes are really our partnerships that we have made with people. We have made amazing partners from a variety of organizations, including Penn State University's IPM program, and our state and local health departments, and especially the EPA. There are so many resources available that are free that you can speak with folks who are experts and they can give guidance. Partners consistently attend our asthma committee meetings and our sustainability meetings, where we discuss ways to improve the health of our schools. Another success is that we are also breaking down silos between our departments in the district, because of this program shows and demonstrates the clear connection between all of our actions. And so IPM is a great way to show the interconnection between all of our departments as a school district. And this is just a resource that we use that is very helpful. This is the Penn State's Integrated Pest Management website. They have fact sheets, online trainings. They even have the Pennsylvania Schools IPM manual that provides a sample policy and everything you'd ever want to know about how to develop a school IPM program. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Francine, for your informative discussion about developing a comprehensive school IPM program in Philadelphia. Thank you again to our great presenters, Dr. Thomas Green from the IPM Institute, Mr. Raul Rivas from the Metropolitan School District of Pike Township, and Ms. Francine Lott from the School District of Philadelphia. And to each and every one of you for participating in this webinar.